about the books that I read in, what month? January. That's the month. Let's get into it. First one I read I actually don't have on me, and that is Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I left this at home so my dad could read it. This book follows a young teenager who rescues this old, grumpy neighbor after he falls and hurts himself. And he starts to take care of his dog in his home when he's in the hospital, and eventually they develop a close relationship. And this whole time, though, there's something funky going on in the neighbor's shed. And eventually, he gets to find out what's in that shed. And I'm aware this is a very vague description that probably does not sound interesting at all. I promise, this book is very, very interesting, but it just takes a little bit to get there, so I don't want to ruin everything if you were planning on reading the book. So, my thoughts. First, what I just said, it was slow in the beginning. Like, way too slow, so slow that I almost put down the book and I thought I was going to hate it. It did pick up. I did really, really like it when it picked up. But I ended up giving the book only 3 stars, partially because of how slow it was in the beginning, and partially because there's this weird losing virginity scene, and I just hate how Stephen King does weird sexual shit like that when it's just not needed, and it never has to be done, but he just adds it in there anyway. Little things like that just drive me fucking nuts. So, I gave it 3 stars instead of 4. I do recommend it though. I think it was a really unique and really cool book. After that, I picked up The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This book follows a man and his son in a post-apocalyptic America as they're traveling down the road to try to get somewhere nicer. And along the way, they struggle to eat, they struggle to find supplies and shelter, their stuff gets stolen over and over, they run into cannibals, so they're having a hard time. This book is like, when reading it, it's just very bleak and full of despair. But I think the overall message is kind of like the beauty of humanity, how we keep going, our resilience, how we keep fighting, and how there's still good in people at the end of the day. It wasn't like the fastest read. It was a little slow at times, but ultimately I kept finding it interesting enough to come back to it. I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid. The sticker was covering her name. This book follows 2 women, a wealthy white woman and her nanny, who is a young black woman. Something really racist happens at the beginning to the young black nanny, and after that, it's about how their relationship changes. It's a lot about white saviorism, honestly, in the end. I definitely found this book interesting, and I kept wanting to pick it up and reading it, so it was really fast-paced and easy to get into. But then at the day, it just didn't wow me. It wasn't as good as I thought it could be. I gave it 3 stars. After that, I picked up The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. I gave this book 2 stars. So this book basically follows a Hispanic neighborhood in Chicago and all the different people living in the neighborhood, and particularly one girl and her experiences in that neighborhood, but she shares stories about other people as well. And each chapter is like its own little mini story that kind of adds to the general feel of the neighborhood. I get what the author was trying to do here, and I like what she was trying to do. It talks a lot in the beginning about how she was a school teacher and she had students who were telling her stories like this, and she started writing some of them down, and this was kind of like to capture what their life was like. So I think that's really interesting, but unfortunately I just could not get into it. I hated the style of just like short little mini stories in each chapter. Because I'm talking like some of these were maybe 2-3 pages long. There was not much to them. And personally, I just could not get into the book no matter how hard I tried. So this is definitely a personal thing. If it sounds interesting to you, like still pick it up, because this is just my own personal opinion and preferences. You still might like it. I don't know that I'd recommend it, but if it sounds interesting to you, I'd recommend it. And the last book I read in January, which this one, it was the last day of January that I was like really getting to the finish line. I'm proud of myself for getting it in. And that is The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Kolbert. This is a nonfiction book about the 6th extinction, and the thesis of the book is essentially that humans are driving the 6th major extinction event on Earth, and each chapter follows something that was extinct or is becoming extinct because of us, or a certain way that we're hurting the Earth. So this is also kind of not a super positive read, I guess. I did find a lot of the chapters to be really interesting though, especially the ones about extinct animals. Like they talk about this type of penguin that was found in Iceland. I found that really cool. Or they talked about animals that used to live in North America, which I just liked it. I thought it was cool. I will say that just personally, I'm not a science bitch. It goes right past my head. I black out when I'm reading too much sciencey stuff. It just happens. So unfortunately that did happen to me a few times in here. I just feel like I got a little bit too technical, which I mean, it makes sense, and I'm sure for plenty of other people it would work, but it just didn't work for me. So at the end of the day, I gave it 3 stars, but I will say I'm really proud of myself for getting this book in because it's been a goal of mine to read a nonfiction book a month. So we're starting off the first month strong. We'll see if it continues throughout the year. And there you go. Those are all the books I read in January. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon with another video. Goodbye.